Hey, welcome back to the channel. We're sitting in a 2017 Chevy Cruze. Already has a check engine light for an EVAP code. Unfortunately, it's just outside of warranty. Go figure. They took it to the dealer. They already diagnosed it. What we're gonna do though, double check what they came up with, which will be just quick and simple checks, and then the repair. So in our engine control module, we have two codes, a 446 and a 451. Now, if you remember from a previous video, I'll post the link to that video. We were working on another Chevy. The fuel tank pressure sensor was actually causing our 446. So it didn't really have a vent system performance. It was the fuel tank pressure sensor that was faulty, making the engine computer think that it had a leak, but it really didn't. So let's look at some live data. I'll start the car up. Let's see what our fuel tank pressure is at the moment. So at this very moment, the fuel tank pressure sensor is right where we want to be. 1.45 volts, 0 inches of water. So that's saying there's no pressure, no vacuum in the system. And between 1.4, 1.5-ish, that's a really good reading. That's exactly what Chevy wants to see. The car is not running, we're just at rest. So let me start it up, or let me pull up some other data. I want to see what the vent solenoid and purge solenoid. Let me see if we can command these on, put a vacuum in the system, and watch our fuel tank pressure drop. Let me show you how to do that real quick. If we go back out to actuation test, should be EVAP system, purge seal. And we want more data, more DS. We want to see our fuel tank pressure. Okay, so right here, that's our tank pressures. Commanded on or off. Start it up. So I believe not venting. There we go. Let's open up our purge a little more. So now our purge is open. So now we're really dropping. See, that looks like it's working the way that it should. And it should go close to 5 volts, but not quite. Oh, it looks like it's dropping back down. See, it should have stayed up, so maybe that's some of the problem. Let me see. Let me try not venting again. Maybe it kicked off. There we go, not venting. And go back to vent. And we should start to normalize. And that's what it's doing. So at least according to this, it's at the moment working the way that it should. Let's see if it'll drop all the way back. So it's almost done. It's still venting. That took almost, I don't know, 7-8 minutes. Not sure if that's normal. Maybe that's the performance that it's talking about, that it's not venting fast enough or normalizing fast enough. Not quite sure. But based at least just on the fuel tank pressure sensor, I want to say that's working like it should. Let's go under. Let's find the vent solenoid. Let's find the vent hose. Let's see if maybe it's just a slight restriction causing this time for it to drop back down to normal, to be elongated or too long for the computer to like it. So this is the EVAP canister on the driver's side by the back wheel. And that's the connector right here. That hose is our vent hose. So we want to pull that off. I'm going to blow through it to see if there's any kind of restriction. And then you can't see, but up in there, I don't know if the camera will even pick it up, but there's a part with a Dorman insignia right on top of this EVAP canister. Dorman is aftermarket, not Chevy. So it makes me wonder if this has been tried to be fixed, either from another shop, the used car lot. This is a car bought from a used car lot. So it's possible that they tried to fix this once before. Not sure, just speculation, but that definitely up there is a Dorman part. All right, got it out. Just has this little retainer. You use a pick or whatever, you could pop off and then it pushes out, and then you just take this whole retainer out with a little like screwdriver or whatever. And this comes off pretty easy. So I'm gonna blow in it and just see if it's clogged or how easy it is to blow in it. Can you see me? This is gonna be gross. Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of airflow in there, so this isn't an issue. So, don't know how I'm gonna get my mouth on this bad boy, but we wanna blow back into the canister. Let me figure that out. So I was able to get the EVAP or vapor canister up and out of its little holder, and that lowered it enough. So now I can get my mouth on this little nipple hose. Some days my job sucks, putting my mouth on hoses. All right, ready to watch me do this one? Nope, clogged. I can barely get air through there. So that should be free flowing into the gas tank. I have the gas cap off and I can barely get anything to squeeze out of that thing. Let me do some research. I believe this whole canister is a dormant part. I'll get back to you. All right, so I got a little more story. They bought this from a used car lot, no check engine light. A couple days later, the light came on. So they took it back to the used car lot. They said, oh yeah, we'll take care of it, no problem. I think, this is all conjecture or speculation, but let me show you what I think they did. I think they replaced the vent solenoid with this. Dormant OE solution, you can see the part number, whatever. But that, definitely on the back side, I see a dormant insignia. This is the vent valve or vent solenoid. When I blew into that hose connected to the vent solenoid, it was clear, no restrictions. But then when I blew into the vent side, going into the canister and then into the fuel tank, major restriction. I could hardly blow anything into there. It's possible that the vent solenoid or vent valve was bad, so they replaced it. But that aftermarket part didn't cut it and cause these performance codes. So I really think in my mind, if we were to replace this vent solenoid or vent valve with a OEM Chevy valve, that'll solve our problem. Now it's just a theory. Some other possibilities is that there could be the canister itself is bad. Maybe there's a restriction in the canister. Or the other is the hose from the canister into the fuel tank. That also could be bad. Typically those hoses don't clog up. What is there to clog up with? It's just fuel vapor coming from the tank into the purge or vapor canister. So there's really not much that could clog up with anything. So I doubt it's that. So this is what I'm thinking. We replace the vent solenoid with a factory solenoid. If that doesn't solve it, then it needs a new canister. So I'm gonna dig around, see where I can get these. It may be dealer parts only, we'll see. But next time you see me, we'll have these new parts and we'll be installing them. All right, welcome back. I got you guys set in the forest. We got the EVAP canister. Genuine GM from the dealer. That's what I recommend. I'm surprised actually how cheap or reasonably priced a dealer part like this is, especially when you compare it to other aftermarket options out there. It does come with a new vent solenoid. So if that's something you're also thinking about, that aftermarket solenoid will be done away with and will not be an issue maybe in the future. So back to stock, and notice when I blow into it, this is that outlet pipe that I was blowing into or trying to blow into from underneath the car. I don't know if you can hear it, probably not. Easy peasy. That's what we're looking for. And that's why I think we have those performance codes stored in the engine computer. The computer has a predetermined time of when the fuel tank pressure needs to normalize. If the fuel tank is taking longer to normalize than that preset parameter, then it thinks there's a performance issue. Is it the sensor? Is it something else? Well, I believe that we have a blockage in the system, and that would make sense because the fuel tank pressure sensor went through all its ranges. It just took a long time to do so. So I really think this will fix it, but let's go under the vehicle, take this off. The manual says that the fuel tank has to be dropped. I'm gonna do my utmost to not have to remove the fuel tank. I think I can take the straps off, lower it enough to get in there. It's held in by this little diamond upside down triangle piece. It sits in a little slot and locks in, so we can unlock it, move it up. I already got it to come out of its slot. Other than that, it's just this hose on top, and then our vent solenoid connector. That's it. This side one we already got off. So that's not a big deal. It's just getting up enough room to the top to disconnect the other hoses. If we can do that, we're golden. So crawl under the car with me. Let's get this thing replaced. So just like at the beginning, we got to get this off. So using a pick and a flathead screwdriver helped me last time. It's still kind of a pain. I know you won't be able to see much, but if you can like get part of it off, put the screwdriver in this little front piece, and then use the pick to pop the other side off. I'm sure there's an actual method. I just don't know it. So it doesn't seem to be working the same way as last time. Oh, okay, I think I learned the trick. Okay, let me push that back in. So with your pick, you can get behind it and pop one side out like that. I don't know if you can see that very well. I'll try to zoom in so you can see it, but one side is popped out. Then slide your flathead screwdriver over to the side that is already popped out. Maybe? Isn't that what I just did before? Oh, maybe not. I thought that was it. Okay, well, don't listen to me. Ah, see? So that's like part of the trick, I guess. But I got it out anyway. And I was able to repeat it, so there's got to be something to what I said. Okay, and then that hose can come off. Let me pull this out completely. I just don't want to break this little clip. That would be a trip to the junkyard. All right, pop this hose off. There we go. All right, so now we are back to where we were last time. So this is what I'm thinking. I don't know if you can see. Can you see where my hand is? So right up in there, let me move you around. That bolt is for the strap for the fuel tank. So I think I can lower the tank. It'll rest on the exhaust. Oh, let me turn this normal. It'll rest on the exhaust. In order to get this tank out, the exhaust is supposed to be removed from the vehicle. I don't want to do all that. But I think if I can lower the tank enough, let it rest on the exhaust, I might be able to get my hand up and in there and get those hoses and stuff disconnected. Make sure your exhaust is cold. We'll see how this works. It might not work. You know what I'm thinking? This heat shield was already bent out of the way. So I wonder if whoever replaced that vent solenoid did it exactly the way I'm gonna try to do this. So it's a 13 millimeter. Okay, so let's go to the back. Do the same thing on the back one. So far that didn't really drop very much. There's a lot more this thing can drop. So let's do the other strap. So this one's kind of the same deal. You gotta bend that heat shield out of the way a little. Hey, hey, look at that. I might be done before lunch. So it gives me complete access. I don't know if you can see that. Let me move it so you guys can see it. You see that red piece? So that's a clip for that small hose. And then over here, so cramped under here. All right, in the back, can you see that? But that's the big hose. So I think I have access to get both hoses off. Sweet. And then once those hoses off, I know for sure I can get that electrical connector off. So let's do that. All right, so you'll probably only get to see my arms in the way. But I want to get that big one off first. I think that'll be the ticket. All right, so under the vehicle, I'm having trouble disconnecting this hose and this hose just because there's too much in the way, and I get some room, but I don't have enough. So what I've decided to do is take a hacksaw blade, and I'm gonna go under and just cut off both nipples for the hoses, so I can at least get the canister out. That'll give me all the room I need, and then I can just pull those little end pieces out from the hoses because I know I can slip them back on. It's just pinching them and getting them off. That's what I'm struggling with. So I guess you can say I'm a hack, literally. Hacking away, hopefully. I think it's gonna take forever. I need another plan. If I just had something easier to get in there. Maybe this will work with the long Sawzall blade. That might be more rigid. All right, there's one. I really hope this works. Almost got it. It's holding on by a little plastic thread. All because I don't want to drop the tank. Woohoo! Got it. All right. We did it, guys. We did it. All right, so we got the old one out using unconventional methods. We cut it out, just cut those hose nipples off, and it came right out, kind of. So, just like before, blow into it, and we can hardly get any air to pass through this canister. Now, that makes me feel really good because another possibility was that it was the inlet lines. Because remember, we checked the outlet hose, no big deal. It blew air all day long, but we could not check the inlet hoses. So the fact that that's disconnected from the inlet and you still can't blow through it makes me believe or confirms that it was the canister itself and nothing else. So new one, again, I don't know if you can hear that, but easy flow. And I already took out the vent solenoid and swapped them. And why I did that was to see, well, was it the vent solenoid that was causing the issue, causing the clog? But it's not. So even with the OEM vent solenoid in the old canister, it was still clogged. And then this is just to show you the insignia. I don't know if you can see that very well, but Dorman. So this is my theory. Again, it's just a theory, so discard it if it doesn't make sense to you. But I think that it was getting this code and they replaced the vent solenoid thinking it was the vent solenoid that was either stuck shut or not opening all the way, but it didn't solve the problem because it wasn't the vent solenoid, but it was actually the entire canister. All right, let's slap this bad boy back in, clear some codes, and then we'll check once again what the fuel tank pressure sensor is seeing. Will it go up and down a lot faster this time? I think it will. Let's do this. So this connector, if you look on the inside of it, it's this right here and then one on the other side, and it locks onto the lip of the hose. And then this one, you just pull out, and that's how it locks. So this one, I don't know if I could have even gotten it without cutting it off. So I think cutting it off was the way to go. For ease of assembly, I'm going to put a little silicone paste inside on the O-rings and then a little on the canister, just so things go back together nice and smooth. All right. I'll plug in the vent solenoid first. Locked in. Okay. Then we'll do our big guy. There we go. I want it to snap in if possible. There. That locked in. Okay. Then we'll put our little red one in. Okay, lock it. All right, it's locked. Sweet. That was easier than I thought. And then we just lock it onto in its little holder on the side here. And you'll hear it click when it's snapped in place. There we go. Smooth. Well, I'm just doing the last one, this one. All right, let's zip this tank back up and we're done. A nice little shortcut. All right, so vehicle is running at the moment. We want to do the purge seal again. And we're just looking at time. How long does it take? Let's see, how do we do this? More DS. We want fuel tank pressure. A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. Okay, so we are venting. So the vent solenoid is open. That's a normal state. So what we want to do is not vent or close the vent solenoid. So I heard it click. So now we're not venting. So now we want to turn on the purge. So about 10% is all we need. And that'll create a vacuum in the system because it'll open up the purge solenoid. There we go. We're creating a vacuum. And then let's start venting again and see how quickly it drops back down to normal. Boom, right away. If you recall the first time, how long it took for that to drop back down to normal because we had a blockage in the system. So I think that double, triple confirms that that clog was causing our performance codes. So I think this car is fixed. All right, that is the diagnosis and fix on this 2017 Chevy Cruze. Now realistically, it could have gone a couple different ways. We saw the data. We knew that the fuel tank pressure sensor was sensing the pressure throughout its range. So that made me think right away that it wasn't a sensor issue, but rather we had a venting issue. So pulling off the atmosphere vent tube, blowing through it, that was fine. And then we blew through the canister, found that it had a restriction. Now, was it the canister itself that was restricted? Was it the vent solenoid? The aftermarket maybe was junk? Was it a line from the EVAP canister to the fuel tank? Because there's two lines that come off the fuel tank. Could one of those be clogged? The answer is yes, it could have been either of those things. Why did we choose to replace the entire canister? Well, based on that aftermarket part that was already put in, we came to the conclusion that, hey, maybe somebody had already been in here trying to fix this exact same issue. So in my mind, I was thinking that that blockage had been there even previous to that vent solenoid being replaced. So we went ahead, ordered the new canister. It came with a new vent solenoid. So boom, double whammy. So if it was the vent solenoid and not the canister, then you got both anyway. And the price honestly is reasonable. All right, we're gonna wrap this video up. In the future, I'd like to make a dedicated video just for explaining the EVAP system. In the meantime, if this helps you, what I like to think of the EVAP is the fuel tank ventilation system. The fuel tank has to breathe. As it gets hot, it expands. As it cools down, it contracts. So air or fuel vapor has to escape and come back in. Same when you fill it up with the fuel at the pump. As you're filling fuel in, air or fuel vapor has to be able to escape as a replacement of that fuel coming in. Likewise, as fuel's coming out, because it's being used by the engine, air has to be able to replace it in the fuel tank. So it's just a ventilation system. The EVAP, or the evaporative emissions portion, is that we don't want that fuel vapor to enter the atmosphere. So it just gets burned into the engine through the intake. But in all essence, it's just a fuel tank ventilation system. And in this case, the fuel tank couldn't breathe. All right, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. See you on the next one.